Hey, this is Jim at Videoguys.com. Thank you for joining us again this week for a live webinar talking about some video storage frequently asked questions. Understand what type of storage you need, whether you're editing video or doing live productions, and how to address all of these storage needs. The most important question to ask yourself before you give us a call to kind of make recommendations is, how do you rate these qualities in order of importance? Usually the most important one is price. What is your budget? What do you have to spend? What do you think is a fair expectation to meet those budget needs? What kind of speed do you need? How important is the security? And we'll go over some of the RAID solutions that add to security and redundancy of your data. The size that you need in order to do your projects. Obviously, if you're doing TV commercial work, you're not going to have as big of a size requirement as someone doing a documentary film. Whether workgroup sharing and archival and backup are important to you. So really what we recommend to our customers is that you take each one of these bullet points and kind of rate it in an order of 1 to 10, and then find a sweet spot to help address what you need. If you're not looking at the importance of workgroup sharing because maybe you're an independent producer doing everything on your own, you'll see that that's going to help with the price category tremendously. Once you start getting into shared storage, we really recommend a budget of about $10,000. Shared storage solution is really starting to make its way to any groups with 3 or more people working on a project or working on a system. Yes, you can still sneakernet everything and take the external drive and move it to another computer, and that's a real easy solution. But when you need to go to advanced media management, now that investment in a shared storage solution may actually make sense and may pay for itself over time. If you are working in state-of-the-art resolutions like 4K UHD, you're going to have to spend more money to get the throughput, the speed, and the size in order to support these files. So if you're working in 4K UHD, you may find yourself going to a large RAID solution that's going to be close to that $2,000 price point. If you're working in HD or live productions like this one here where we're streaming at 720p, you can have a $500 solution that is still going to give you redundancy or RAID type capability at a very reasonable price. If all you need is to back up and store your media for archiving, then you can get any standalone hard drive, and these prices are going down every day. For a couple of $100, you can get a large single drive that you can connect to a USB or Thunderbolt port on your computer and have everything you need to store and back up your videos. A popular question is, does it matter if you're running a Mac or a PC? The answer now is that it really doesn't. This used to be very important and was a big consideration in how to format your hard drives. Typically, what we recommend now is formatting your drive in an exFAT format, and we have some information on our blogs excuse me, on how to do that. So now, whether you're using a Mac or PC, you can take the external drive formatted in exFAT and move it easily between either system and either operating system. So let's start with the basics. What is a hard disk drive? A hard disk drive is a spinning platter. For those of you old enough like me to remember a record player, that's a great way to think of a hard disk drive. As you start getting to the outer rings of the record, it will take longer for that to go around and the drive speed will slow down. That means if you want to have enough sustained speed in order to maintain your video storage, you want to make sure you have not only a fast spin, like a 7200 RPM drive or better, but you also want to be cautious about how much you fill up that hard drive. Typically, we recommend you take a spinning disk drive and keep it less than 75% filled, so you're not expecting these same rates when you start getting to the outer part of that disk. A solid state drive, on the other hand, is your newer state-of-the-art media. This is what enables your iPad or your smartphone to turn on instantly the second you press the button. A solid state drive can be accessed very quickly and is a great solution for a boot drive in a video editing workstation or live production workstation. It also has no spinning disk, which means no moving parts. No moving parts means it's going to be more reliable for you out in the field. This is why monitors, recorders, playback devices like the Atomos Ninja and the Atomos Shogun, they use solid-state drives like the Sony G-Series drives in order to store the data on that. You can take those out into the field and have very reliable storage capabilities in large volumes that are getting bigger and bigger every day. If you have an Atomos recorder, a Blackmagic camera recorder, Convergent Design, video devices, and more, you definitely want to check out these Sony G-Series solid-state drives. We do have a webinar about those drives specifically that we, that we did just a few weeks ago. So now, what is a RAID? This is the big question, and there are a few ways to answer this. There are ways to set up a RAID to give you faster speeds and faster throughput, and there are ways to set up a RAID to give you redundancy and data security. Let's talk about some of the different levels. RAID 0 is the first recommendation we make to a lot of video editors and producers out there. In a RAID 0, you take 2 hard drives and you stripe the data across both drives simultaneously. Line number 1 goes to drive 1, line number 2 goes to drive 2, and then they keep on striping back and forth between them. By striping your data across these drives like this, not only do you get double the transfer speed because you're accessing 2 drives instead of 1, but you also get greater reliability in the fact that you don't have to worry about not filling these drives up. You have plenty of overhead and plenty of space that you can fill up 2 drives in a RAID 0 and have the throughput you need from beginning to end. Not be faced with the same limitations that we talked about with the spinning disk before. A RAID 0 is a very affordable and inexpensive way to get a large storage volume for your video storage. You can stripe 2 4-terabyte drives, get 8 terabytes of usable storage, and have everything you need with all the speed you need for your video. A RAID 1, however, is for security. Typically not what we recommend for video storage, because writing to a RAID 1 configuration is no faster than writing to a single drive. The advantage of a RAID 1 is that your data is instantly backed up. So when you stripe to a RAID 1, your data is being stored simultaneously on drive 1 and drive 2. There's no increase in speed, but you always have a working backup as you write to the drive. A RAID 0 plus 1 needs 4 drives in order to accomplish this, but gives you that same type of capability where you can stripe and mirror across the 2 drives. But this is what we recommend in a RAID setup if you want the best of both speed and protection. A RAID 5 allows you to get 75% of your usable storage. So if you take 4 4-terabyte drives, that's 16 terabytes of total volume, of which 12 terabytes is usable for storage. The remaining 4 terabytes is a parity drive. If any one of these 4 drives fails, your data can be restored and rebuilt from the parity drive. And this diagram here will show you how that data is written. So the advantage of a RAID 5 is in 4 4-terabyte drives, you get 12 terabytes of usable storage, whereas a RAID 0 plus 1 with 4 4-terabyte drives, you're only getting 8 terabytes of usable storage because all of your data is mirrored across the second RAID 0 set. After you decide which RAID solution you're going to get, the next question is whether or not you should install these drives into your machine or get an external solution. Especially when we start looking at a RAID 5, if you're going to take 4 drives and put it into your machine, you're going to have to worry about cooling to make sure that you're keeping that machine nice and cool and not damaging other components in there. The last thing you want to do is save a couple of dollars on a hard drive solution, but end up affecting the other components within your machine. For that reason, we typically recommend going with an external solution like a USB or Thunderbolt connection. You can get these in either RAID 0 or RAID 5, and the price premium to go with these external boxes has really come down significantly over the years. There is no hassle to set them up and install. They're all Windows and Mac compatible, or at least most of them are, depending on the manufacturer. And you can always run them around the office and connect them to different computers if needed. Which external connection should you use? The latest and greatest connection is a Thunderbolt 3 connection, which shares the USB-C port. Thunderbolt 3 will give you 4 times the throughput of Thunderbolt 2. Not only does it give you the fastest throughput of an external connection, but all Thunderbolt connections allow you to daisy chain multiple devices without slowing down the connections to the last device in the chain. This is great, especially in a laptop use where you want to get the smallest, most compact laptop with a limited number of connections that you can plug your drives into. Thunderbolt 3, you can plug your drive in and then plug an external monitor and daisy chain across the line to have all the devices that you need connected. Thunderbolt 3, USB-C, again, they share that connection. And then from there, in order of speed, we will go to Thunderbolt 2, USB 3. USB 3 is probably the most common connection found on both PC and Macs today. Thunderbolt was developed by Apple and Intel, so it was more prevalent on Macs and is now just as prevalent on a PC. But USB 3 is probably the most universal across the board on new machines that you would be picking up today. And then you can go to Thunderbolt 1, eSATA, FireWire, or USB 2. If you are looking to connect to an older machine and you have either USB 2, FireWire, or eSATA, please give us a call to talk about your storage needs. It's going to be difficult to get a drive that's going to meet the throughput speeds needed, especially for the new resolutions and new frame rates of the video that's out there today on some of these older connections. So before you make an investment, it may be worth talking about either upgrading your current system or looking at another system upgrade. So what type of storage do you need, and how can the video affect the storage that you decide upon? RAID 0, again, 2 drives. The more drives you buy, the more money you're going to spend. Since a RAID 0 is 2 drives and a RAID 5 is 4 drives, RAID 5 is going to be more expensive. If the video you're working with is longer than an hour, look at a RAID solution and not just a standalone drive. If you have multiple layers of videos and graphics, look at a RAID solution and not just a standalone drive. If you are editing AVC, HD, 4K, 2K, any of these higher resolutions that require more horsepower, we've talked about CPU, we've talked about GPU, let's talk about storage speed. Make sure you get the speed that you need. When do you go from a RAID 0 to a RAID 5? The RAID 5 is when your data must be protected. If you are working on a video project that is mission critical and you're going to need to rebuild that data, RAID 5 is an excellent way to handle that, giving you the maximum drive volume while still having some of that protection in case of a drive failure. I have never known a drive to fail while it is not being used. That means it's going to fail while you're using it, while you're in the middle of a project. You're going to want to be able to recapture that data and recapture that information ASAP. You can set up a RAID 5 in 6 drive and 8 drive solutions if you need even faster throughput speeds. So now you can still have 75% of the total volume for storage, but increase your sustained transfer rates to those drives by RAIDing across more drives in the volume. The G-Speed Studio XL, G-Speed Shuttle XL are great solutions for those that need that additional throughput if you're working in uncompressed 2K, 4K, uncompressed 4K, or RAW video formats. So when you look at these drives and you're evaluating one drive versus another, a lot of times you will see single drives benchmarked. Honestly, we don't care about benchmarks. There is only one spec that we care about for video storage, and that is sustained throughput. Look at the sustained throughput. Know that it's an enterprise class drive that solution is built on. Know that that drive is backed by a solid warranty over multiple years, and those should be the key signs to tell you that this is a good investment for your video productions. So now let's talk about the best way to configure the drives on your workstation. Typically what we recommend is that your boot drive is an SSD drive. This is going to allow you to boot up your machine faster and access your program faster. Whether you're working in post-production software like Adobe Premiere or Avid Media Composer or Final Cut Pro X, or if you're using live production software like vMix or Wirecast, the faster you can get your machine up and running, the quicker you'll be able to create your videos. Second, I like adding a second SSD drive to handle your video export. Programs like Adobe and Avid like to have a separate scratch disk, cache files. This can all be done on this SSD drive. A good size drive there is important, but you don't have to go to the largest SSD available today because there is always going to be a price premium for that. We found that a 240 gigabyte size right now seems to be the sweet spot of giving you all the space you need at a good price for the value. And then take an external drive like a RAID 0 or a RAID 5. You don't have to worry about any additional cooling within the machine, and you can have all the space you need outside of the machine for all your video production work. 4 terabyte seems to be the sweet spot of where to start with that, but evaluate it, because as you get to the larger drive volumes, the price per gigabyte decreases significantly. So if 4 terabyte is only going to meet your needs for the next 6 months, then really you should look at least an 8 terabyte solution today, because otherwise you're going to be spending a lot more over the course of the year. We've talked about how the needs for modern resolutions and frame rates will increase your need for storage. We've added in this guide on our website a handy little chart to give you an idea of what's required with 4K resolutions. If you're not working in 4K today, it's very possible that you will be in the very near future. More and more people are going to 4K, so if you're going to make an investment in storage, make an investment that allows you to work in these formats now. You'll see if you're working in 4K Apple ProRes 422 at 30 frames a second, you're going to get 176 minutes of video on a 1 terabyte drive. So that means if we talk about the 4 terabyte RAID solution that we talked about a moment ago, 4 terabytes in a RAID solution, that might not be enough for even a single documentary. That you're looking at maybe 8 hours of storage on that drive. Think about your final production. Think about all of your raw footage coming into the machine. Think about all of the editing and then the export files. So you want to start thinking about how to prepare for the future and getting enough storage to meet 4K. This can also start the conversation for shared storage. Not only will you see that the shared storage solutions give you much larger volumes, but if you're working with 3 or more editors in a workgroup environment, the shared storage solutions also give you the media management tools to be able to work together seamlessly. Take a look at the Avid Nexus Pro, the G Technology G-Rack, the GB Layers Fast NAS, as a bunch of other solutions out there. The Nexus Pro, as an example, has just come down in price significantly, where you can combine a Nexus Pro with the Dell N2024 Nexus Switch for under $10,000. That's a huge breakthrough in price at this price range, and from the editors that we've talked to, it finally puts a shared storage solution into a budget range that you can build into your next project. Again, we've talked a lot about the G Technology solutions. From a single drive standpoint, they have the G Drive series of products. In a RAID 0 solution, they have the G RAID family of products. When you get to a RAID 5 with 4 drives or more, the nomenclature on those products is G Speed. If you give us a call, we can help find the right solution for what you want to do, but we can also point you to the product family that best meets your needs here. For network attached storage, we've talked about the Avid Nexus. G Technology also has their new G-Rack solution available for people looking for the network attached shared storage platform. If you have any questions about any of the products that we talked about or any of these storage needs we've mentioned today, or if you think there are other questions that we should add to this guide, give us a call at 800-323-2325. I'm Jim at extension 110. If I'm not available, anybody else here can help you. And you can also reach us at videoguy@videoguys.com. And we hope you join us every Tuesday at 2 p.m. for these live webinars. Thanks for joining us today.
Videoguys is available Monday to Friday. Give us a call, 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter to stay connected with all our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.